Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Last time we left off with shelling the Nazis in East Prussia, just talking about the Soviets and what guns they're using and things like that, what they're doing to the Germans in East Prussia. We're now on to the ruins of a church in the Philippines. February 1945. Nothing is spared. 4 Yanks walk sadly through the ruins of a Catholic church which was destroyed as the barbaric Japanese were driven from the Philippines. Only a remnant of the house of God still arches itself against the heavens. 3 years of Japanese rule worked many hardships on people of the Philippines. And yeah, so for these men, they're probably not Catholic, more than likely. Most Americans are not. There are a few that are. Obviously, if they're Italian, have a higher chance of being, or even Irish. But many people in the Philippines are also Christian. I think Catholic. I don't know about so much anymore, but they were more so. But for many of them, this would have been pretty heartbreaking. It's a house of God. It's considered sacred. You don't destroy that kind of thing, even if the Americans did in Italy. Manila internees are freed. February 4th, 1945. Prison camps are captured. And as American troops entered Manila, a part of the 1st Cavalry Division swooped swiftly down upon the Santo Tomas concentration camp, overcoming the garrisons there and freeing hundreds of internees. 1,350 internees were also released from Bilibid prison in Manila, making a total of 5,000 Allied citizens liberated, and 4,000 of whom were Americans. The picture at the right shows freed Santo Tomas prisoners getting a good American meal. And above, the Bilibid internees getting their first mail in over a year. Yeah, now some of these places, it depended on who was the guardsman who was in charge of these places. They were sometimes worse than others. So, as for example, you can kind of see here, none of them look like they've been particularly malnourished. They don't necessarily look... They look like they haven't been eating, maybe as they should, but still, they're not malnourished. But some places were much, much worse. It really depended on the Japanese commander that was in charge, because some of them were nicer. You know, these are civilians. They're not combatants. You don't treat them like combatants. And Japanese treated combatants pretty awfully. So, but they treated citizens relatively good. But other ones, not so much. You'd get people that were pretty harsh. The Yalta Conference, February 4th to the 11th, 1945. Mapping defeat for the Nazis. From February 4th to the 11th, the Big Three and their staffs met in a historic conference at Yalta, in the Russian Crimea, to chart the final defeat of Germany and to secure the foundation for a lasting peace. Above, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Premier Joseph Stalin. At the round table below, we have in the top left, Stalin and his aides, as you can see them right here. At the top right, we have President Roosevelt with Admiral William D. Leahy, and that's just his personal chief of staff, and General George C. Marshall, Chief of Staff of the Army. And then at the bottom right here, we have good old Winston Churchill pulling out a cigar. Pretty obvious. If you look for the man with the cigar, it's probably Churchill. Conversation Peace. February 1945. Sidelights at Yalta. Oh boy, I'm trying to get that back in focus for you. Does not seem to want to like them. Okay. Above, Marshal Stalin and President Roosevelt get together for a heart-to-heart talk. And at the right, the Russian leader is amused as British Prime Minister selects one of his ubiquitous stogies from a leather case. My bad. The war leaders and their staffs first discuss plans for final concentrated military action against Germany, and then turn their attention to the problems of post-war peace. The best military and diplomatic brains of the three great countries were assembled for the discussions, which were held in the summer palace of former Tsar Nicholas II on the Black Sea shore, near Yalta, in the Crimea. Yeah, so obviously a lot of people probably thought this was a little goofy to see Churchill pull out his stogies. And look at that leather case. That thing's huge. Man's gotta pack them, that's for sure. East meets West. February 1945. The twain meet. After the Yalta Conference, President Franklin D. Roosevelt received Middle Eastern rulers on an American war vessel anchored in the Great Bitter Lake. Through which the Suez Canal passes. In the picture above, the president is seen making a point to smiling Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. He was the king of Ethiopia at one point, and then the Italians come in, kick him out. He goes back to being king. I think he's king till he dies. Someone would have to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. But he's king for a while. But then Ethiopia gets rid of the kingdom, and I think he either lives to where it's no longer his or doesn't. I can't remember now. And then below, he chats with King Farouk of Egypt. Not someone we really talk about very much, King Farouk. He's king of Egypt. That's really all you can say about him. There's not much else. A lot of these pictures they don't show. I think I've seen this one, but not this one. And I think one of the reasons you don't see this one as much is because look at poor Roosevelt. He does not look good. Obviously, as we know, he's suffering pretty horribly. That's why every time you see him picture with a leader, he's always sitting, and so are they. The reason is because he's not doing so great in health, so he can't stand. And so they have the leader sit down, so it's like, okay, no one is more powerful than one another. They kind of depends, you know? Death in the streets of Manila. I gotta cover that up. Yanks and guerrillas battle Japs. Powerless to stop the grim American column, a dead Japanese lies in the streets before the pockmarked Far Eastern University building in Manila. Below, a Filipino guerrilla takes command of a street by roping his ancient heavy-caliber machine gun to a fire hydrant. A bamboo log serves as a front mount, while the fire plug gives cover and concealment. Yeah, so this is not a terrible idea for using the bamboo log as the front mount. It's not necessarily the best, but it's better than nothing, and you'd take better than nothing over many other things. And the fire hydrants are pretty thick metal. Not the thickest, but they would give good enough defense for someone hiding behind them. And with that, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Tell me what I could improve on. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.